Hi, so okay, this is part 2 of your video lecture for rhetorical analysis. So it's this PowerPoint writing rhetorical analysis assignment, and where we left off, we just finished talking about rhetorical appeals, and we were on the pre-writing slide right before we start talking about the body. So let me go ahead and get back over here to slideshow mode. So for pre-writing, listing and outline are your best bets here. There are other forms you can use, but Venn diagrams aren't really helpful here because you're not doing as much comparing and contrasting. T-charts can be helpful, but again, those are kind of like their form of listing. I do not see how someone could possibly use a mind map for this. It just seems like a nightmare. So I really think that these are probably the best ones. If you have others that work for you, you can use them, but I would strongly recommend listing and outlining. So you want to go back to the text that you looked at, that you're doing for your rhetorical analysis, and make notes for 2 to 3 quotes for each of the appeals. Again, those are logos, which are logic, pathos, which are emotion, ethos, which are credibility. And then any other evidence that isn't quotes. In the walkthrough, which I'll do in a second, you'll see that there are a couple of pieces of evidence for ethos that aren't necessarily quotes, but they are definitely still evidence. So you still want to make notes of those. And 2 to 3 quotes that demonstrate purpose or audience, so especially if there's like a call to action, if there's something that the reader wants you to do. You'll want to note those because they'll be really helpful for your introduction and your conclusion. You have some options for how you can note these on the article. You can annotate it by making notes in the margins. You can highlight it. You can copy and paste it into a Word doc. Do whatever works for you. You can use OneNote and kind of type things off to the side. You can copy and paste it in Word and make comments like I'll show you in a second. There are a lot of ways that you can annotate a document and put this stuff into listing, but you want to get these things here. You want to make sure that you have them because they'll be really, really helpful in a couple steps. Then you want to go back to your purpose statement to create your thesis statement. So remember, in title of work, author's last name, attempts to persuade, inform, entertain, or teach the reader about. So that was your purpose statement. Now you want to add in your appeals, and that's just adding this little bit at the end. In title of work, author's last name, attempts to persuade, inform, entertain, or teach the reader about the topic of the article by using logos, pathos, and ethos. So how do we write the body on these? Well, your topic sentences don't have to be difficult. So you're going to state the appeal and the reason for the reason the appeal is being used. So a good template would be author's name uses appeal to accomplish or because of. Then your exposition, a key part of the exposition in this kind of writing is integrating evidence. This will also be the expectation for research papers in most college writing. So to integrate evidence, you will use IPA. You will introduce the quote, present the quote, and analyze the quote. If you don't do all 3 on this one, I'm definitely taking off points because it is super crucial for this type of writing. So here are some ways you can look at that aren't just IPA. So how to make a delicious quotation sandwich. Serve a different sandwich every time you make a point. Make quotation sandwiches a healthy part of all your essays. So you'll introduce the quotation by saying who said it. You want to tell the reader something about the author so we know why it's important. Set it up. Choose words that accurately reflect the tone or attitude of the author. Then insert the quotation. And then explain the quotation. What is the author saying? What does it mean? Why is it important? Again, use words that reflect the author's tone. So again, this is IPA, introduce, present, analyze. So here's some templates for introducing quotes because a lot of students do struggle with how to do that. So X states, not all steroids should be banned from sports. X states is the introducing part. As the prominent philosopher X put it, that's introducing it, and you put the quote in. According to X, X himself writes in her book, X maintains that. Writing in the journal commentary, X complains that. In X's view, X agrees when she writes, X disagrees, X complicates matters further when she writes. So X is the name of the author in all of these, and these are just some different ways that you could introduce quotes. Here are some more of them. She recalls, I never thought I'd win. So she recalls, Smith states, Smith remarks, Smith writes, Smith notes, Smith comments, observes, concludes, reports, maintains, adds. Don't worry too much about whether or not you're being repetitive with these. If you say Smith said several times in the essay, probably not going to care at this point. I'm probably going to notice more if you try to come up with a different word for said every single time, because that sometimes seems a little strange. So just try to think about doing this part, just including the introduction. Don't worry too much about avoiding repetition at this stage in the game. So your transition, sentence, and rhetorical analysis work very similar to other types of essays we've worked on. And as always, they're very important. You'll recap your main points and explain why they're important. The biggest difference here is you'll use the name of the appeal to do it. So a template is by using name of appeal, author's name is able to blank the desired response. For your introduction, some good options for a hook are quotes and anecdotes. You will want to make sure you have context in your introduction. So this is a transition from the hook to the context. It could also be a summary of the article, any information that's needed about the author or the article, the intended audience for the article, or the reaction that you think the author or creator is trying to create. So any of this is good options for context. You can use all of them. You can use a couple of them. It depends on what you need for your paper. In your introduction, you will want to end with your thesis statement, and the thesis statement is very important. So because it outlines the roadmap for the paper, and again, I will be taking off points if I don't see thesis statements. In the conclusion, you'll want to paraphrase your thesis, recap your main points, and add a so what statement. So do you think the author was effective? Why or why not? What do you think the author wants you to do after reading it? Is it a good idea? Why or why not? What's at risk, and why is that important? And so now we'll talk about the next step. So the next step is going to be to read the rhetorical analysis walkthrough. This is pages 29 through 36 in the Reading Strategies and Rhetorical Analysis booklet. In a few minutes, I'm going to be making a video of that as well. So if you need it, you can watch me walk through it too. You'll want to read 2 of the 4 articles on page 37 of the booklet. There are also the links to them, or at least the URLs, will be on the rhetorical analysis assignment, which I'm working on right now. And do the exercises in Canvas. The exercises are meant for you to double dip. They will help you do your pre-writing for this. They will help you write one of the body paragraphs and get content for your introduction and conclusion. And I want you to use what you do in the exercises in your rhetorical analysis essay. So it's in your best interest to go ahead and do those exercises, because then that's less work for you when you're writing the essay later on. It'll make it a lot easier for you. So that brings us to the end of this presentation. I'll have another one up very shortly, and I will see you guys soon.